Hi. I never know how to start these things, but so today I looked at the calendar and this day always just kind of like jumps out at me. 5:21, 5:21. Every time I see it, it just kind of like stops me for a second, and I always try to remember like, why is it so significant? But when I see it, like even sometimes when I see like 5:21 like on the clock or whatever, that's because today, 8 years ago, I was supposed to be married. My wedding date was 5/21/11, and did I do the math right? 8 years, yeah. And like I was 22 when I got engaged. For reference, I'm 31 now. My hair's a hot mess per usual. And so, I was 22, so like everything was like 5/21/11. All my passwords, all my Instagrams, all my things were 5/21/11. So like every time I see that date, I'm just kind of like, ugh. So yeah, a lot of you, I guess, don't know that I was engaged before. And the hard thing about like being transparent and coming out and being vulnerable with your story is that unless you're a caveman and you like live by yourself, your story has to include other people. So when you kind of have to share about your pain and about your past, it has to include other people. So there's that like fine line between like sharing your story and helping other people but not hurting the people in your past, if that makes sense. Like there's so many stories that I want to like talk about and tell you guys about, but I think that there's something to be said about protecting some people in my past, like not needing to bash them, but still trying to get my point across. So that's basically what I'm going to try and do. So I was engaged. I was living in New York at the time. He proposed on my 22nd birthday. He was 20, I think, when he proposed. And I know that everyone's different. I think my parents were married at 20 and 21, but I was so not ready to be married. I thought I was. As soon as I graduated high school, I was just like, I need to get married. That's it. Like, that's just was my goal in life, is to be married and have kids. And like, it's not like my parents pressured me to do that. I just think that because they did it, I just felt like that was what I should do too. And so that was just literally my goal, was to get married and have a family. And that's not a bad goal. For those of you that's your goal, it's not a bad goal. For me, it was a bad goal. For me, there was other things that I wanted to do and other plans that God had in mind that I really wasn't listening to at the time. So I met this guy, and now looking back on it, I can realize that I was totally not in love. Like, I thought I was in love, but it was just more, I was in love with the idea of being married and being a wife. And so he proposed on my 22nd birthday. And then shortly after I turned 23, he called off the wedding. So probably like 2 or 3 months before our wedding, he called it off. And I'm so thankful for it. Like, we've talked since then. It was 8 years ago. And we realized that we were just kids, and maybe we were just better off friends. And we were both kind of trying to force each other into this God-shaped hole that really was meant for God. And yeah, so he called off the wedding, and I was devastated. 2 months out, I had my dress, we had our save the dates, we had, our rings, we had, we had so many things. Like, we were really, really close. And I remember being at work. I was a manager at a hotel, and we had gone back and forth for so long, like fighting and just being dumb kids. And he just said, kind of like, we had 2 dogs. He was like, keep the dogs, keep everything. He goes, I just can't do this anymore. And being 23 and just so emotional and dramatic, I quit my job. Like, I did not go back to work. And I laid in bed for like a solid 2 months. I think I lost 20 pounds in 2 months. I was just so devastated. But part of me like was more devastated that I knew he was not the right person for me. But I just felt like so overwhelmed that like I was never going to find that person. And so, like I said, I was living in New York at the time, and I thought my life was over, like literally over. I'm like, there's no way that I'm gonna meet someone else. There's no way I'm gonna meet someone that's gonna love me. There's no way that I'm gonna meet someone really soon, because I needed to have kids and I needed to be married like early 20s. This was my plan. And so funny. Yeah, I was devastated. And after the 2 months happened, my parents kind of came to me and was just like, listen, you need to pick yourself up and move on. I think I wore my ring for the 2 months. I wore my ring. I couldn't take it off. It was just so painful and like so, I don't know, just really emotional. I remember being in the kitchen and sitting there just like in a blank stare, and my dad came over to me, and my dad actually was the one to take the ring off my finger. And I think I get emotional because I'm just like in awe of how good God's plan is. Like, I don't cry because I miss him or that I'm sad that that was a broken engagement. I'm just remembering the pain. I really feel that pain back then, and just thinking like there's no way that it can get better. And now like being in the better is just really like humbling and really cool. So it just makes me so emotional. So he took my ring off my finger, and I was just like, wow, okay, like now it's time to get to work, basically. Like I had a choice. I was either gonna be bitter about it or I was gonna get better about it. And for some reason I chose to get better. And I look back on that and I'm just like, I wouldn't have been able to do it had it not been for God and the people in my life. And so I ended up moving to Massachusetts. I was 23 years old. I moved in with my aunt and my uncle, who are amazing. They took me in and let me live with them for a while. A couple months after that, I went back to New York and I brought my sister back with me. So her and I kind of like started our family moving back to Massachusetts. Her and I lived on an air mattress for a couple months at my aunt and uncle's. It was the best time ever. Oh my gosh, we had so much fun. And then we found an apartment together, and then slowly my family started to come back, my brothers and my parents. So it all happened for a reason, obviously. And I know sometimes it's so cliche to say, but I just think about like, had he not called off the wedding, like we might not have ever met Everly and Leo and Emery and all the things, the beautiful things that are happening in our family now. Like I was the cause of all of my family coming back to Massachusetts, but really his obedience to God, I guess, in calling off our engagement and our wedding is the reason, like just one little tiny decision just altered our entire lives and led me to this moment that I'm in right now. And like, if you would have told me at 23, like, you're not gonna meet someone until you're 31, like, I don't think I would have been able to do it. I don't think I would have been able to wait that long, which is why I'm so thankful that I know God gives you like a lamp into your feet. And I heard a pastor say it one time. He gives you a lamp into your feet because if he gave you a beacon, your mind is too small to handle the future. Like if God were to have showed me like, okay, you're gonna meet Bobby when you're 31 years old, and I was 23 when I found out this news, I would have either sat in a closet for the last 8 years and just rocked back and forth and been like, where is Bobby? Where is Bobby? Or I would have just maybe given up and just married some other guy because I was like, there's no way I can wait another 4 years, 6 years, whatever it was. So the cool thing about just giving a lamp into your feet is that you just have just enough light just to get through the day. You don't need to know what the future holds, because all the good in the future, you don't want to steal from your future now. You want to enjoy it when it comes. And all the bad in your future, you don't want to focus on that stuff right now. You want to really focus on today. And so I don't know how I got through the last 8 years. I mean, God for sure, and just my supportive family. But I look back on it and I think, holy crap, like that was a long time. I can't believe it. But now being in the position that I am now, like I would have waited another 8 years for this man. Like it's supernatural. Like, and I know that sounds like kind of stupid, but like I believe in God, obviously, so I believe that he has had a hand in this relationship and us meeting. But it is so like an out of this world feeling. Like it's better than fireworks, it's better than magic, it's better than anything that I thought, because it's just right. Like it's not that we don't get in arguments and get in fights, and it's not like all like we're skipping with roses all the time, but it's just so powerful and so beautiful. And he challenges me and helps me to be a better person every single day. And it just was so worth it. Like it was so worth that wait. And when I met him, I just had such a clear mind, because I wasn't just dating just to date. Like, I was alone, and it was really, really sad and really, really hard. But then when I met him, it was just kind of like, yeah, okay, this makes so much sense. And it was like an easier transition, because I really knew who I was and I really loved who I was. So when I met him, I could kind of be like, here I am, take it or leave it. Like, I didn't offer him a false Jackie. And that's what I did with my previous fiance. I didn't know who I was. I was offering him just this version of myself that I had no clue about. So like, how could I expect him to love me when I didn't even know me? And everyone comes to that in different ages. There's no set age on when that is true for you. For me, it was a couple years ago. It was a couple years ago that I really just found out who I was and what I wanted, and I was able to offer that to Bobby when I met him in a real, like, genuine and raw way. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to share that. I mean, I look at the calendar, 5/21/11, and I'm just like so humbled and thankful that God spared me from what would have probably been a broken marriage, and led me to the man that I'm supposed to be with. And like I said, I would have waited 8 more years for him, because it's just that good. And I know my life with my ex would have been just more painful, because it just wasn't right, and it was just me forcing it and me wanting it to be a certain way. And this now is just so different, and it's just right. So I guess this video would be to encourage any of you guys who maybe have just got out of a relationship and you feel like there's no hope, and there's no, like, I always used to say, like, there's no, no guys on the horizon. There was no horizon for me. Like, my sister was getting married and having babies. My little brother was getting married, and I wasn't even dating. So I would say there's not even a horizon, never mind guys on the horizon. So if you feel like that right now, like, I don't know, I feel your pain. So like, I'm not gonna sit here and say when you least expect it. Like, I hated that stuff. But all I can encourage you is just take it one day at a time, just a little lamp under your feet, and don't focus on what tomorrow has. Don't focus on what the next 5 years has, because today, you could just totally waste today by thinking about tomorrow. And I know that's duh, but yeah, just hold on and keep waiting, and I promise you it's going to be worth it. Just keep working on yourself, and stop looking. Just chill and just realize all the beauty that's around you, and I promise it'll be worth it.